Greetings, everyone. This is Eric Stewart from Fishing Fanatics, and I got an awesome guest today, Bryan New, who is an Elite Series angler. How you doing, Bryan?
I'm good, man. Hope you are.
I'm doing great. I'm excited to dive into this because I love the story of how you got to where you are today fishing the Elite Series. But let's bring it all the way back to possibly your childhood and what got you hooked in bass fishing in the first place.
Yeah, I grew up on Lake Wiley. We lived on the lake, and me and my brothers, we're always outside. We were always fishing for whatever would bite. We typically not really bass. We seen the big fancy bass boats come by the dock fishing, and we always kind of like, oh man, that looks fun. Those guys know what they're doing, and yeah, there was a tackle store opened up the street from my house about a mile, and they had a little, it was a convenience store slash tackle store, and they had a grill. So, we would go up there to get some food. Back in the day, your 6, 7 year old kid could walk a mile up the street and not think much of it, and just kind of started hanging out up there, become really good friends with the guys, Earl Hill and his son EJ, and really all the guys that hung out there. And that was my first job. I'd sweep floors after school and take out the trash, and it just kind of went from there. I had a family, a church guy. He started taking me fishing even before that, and he bass fished, and that was kind of how, between the tackle store and him taking me fishing, that's how it kind of switched over to bass more than just whatever would bite.
Gotcha. What was that biggest leap like? Because I know a lot of guys have different stories about this is the moment in time where I knew I got hooked on it. Was there anything like that where it was you know what, this moment really kind of made or break kind of my entire career, and I was like, this is when I knew I loved fishing?
I remember always loving fishing, just whatever. And as it kind of, that was close to 30 years ago whenever it kind of switched to strictly bass fishing. But, and I shouldn't even say strictly bass fishing. I love catching everything, in the winter, go out here to Lake Murray and catch striper. That's kind of what I do in the winter. But I don't know, I guess it was kind of a soft transition. It still was, I like catching catfish and everything back then. And one day it just, the bass fishing kind of just took hold. And, I seen that there was a potential for a career, obviously not at that young of an age, but I knew that the career was there, and that's what I decided I wanted to do. And, fortunately enough, I've been very, very fortunate and blessed to be able to do so. But it took, my entire life, everything I did in my life was to make sure that would, I would have the best chance possible.
Definitely. Let's talk about your professional career, because when I was looking back on it, you got some awesome things here. In the FLW, you got 44 top 10 wins or top 10 placements there. You also messed around too with the Bassmaster Open. You got the Angler of the Year on the Opens there in 2020. Take us through kind of that stepping stone of did it start with FLW, then it went to the Opens, now you're at the Elites, or how did that kind of play out?
Yeah, so growing up, the team tournaments, the night tournaments were kind of the thing, and it kind of just went from there. When I was 16, they had a BFL at Lake Norman, and I fished it as a co-angler. And you have to be 16. I think I was 16 and 4 days old or something. And I finished 21st in that tournament. I got $161.
That's a lot of money at that age.
You're right. Yeah. So I just kind of always stuck with the FLW stuff, and, just because it had been working for me. I took every level from BFL co-angler to FLW co-angler to Toyota Series co-angler to Toyota Series boater, BFL boater. I took all of those steps and had a lot of success in each one of those steps. And in 2019, I won a lot of stuff that year. And, I always told myself that I never wanted, to go out and fish on the pro side on my own money. 2019, I won a lot of money. Gave me, probably enough to fish 2 or 3 years strictly on the money that I won. And that year, at that point, see, back in the day, you didn't have to qualify for FLW. You could just show up, so, pay your money and show up. Well, at that point, you kind of did have to qualify. I did qualify. I had the money. Yeah, the buyout happened. I read the plan, didn't like the plan at all. I didn't want no part of it. And I decided, I was very down about it. But I said, if I've got a future in this industry, I'm going to have to go fish the Opens. Well, that year there were only 2 divisions of Opens, 4 tournaments each, 4 qualifiers from each division, 4 qualifiers from the overall. I only sign up for the Eastern Division. I go on, I win that first Open. At that point, so I think it makes sense to sign up and hopefully I can get in the other division. Fortunately, COVID hit, the whole world went stupid, and I was able to get in the other division, go on, win Angler of the Year, and qualify for the elites. So, funny deal about that is, if I don't win that first Open, I don't get in the overall. If I don't get in the overall, I don't qualify. So, yeah, I mean, it just kind of went there. It was, of course, I go on, I win my first elite that I fish, and, it's been really good ever since. This year was pretty bad all year until the last event. Finished third, I think. I don't know. Really good. And, yeah, we kind of got the train back on the tracks, but that's kind of what led me to the elites. I was comfortable where I was at. I hit a brick wall, and that was the end of that road, and I had to take a different path, and it was definitely the best path.
Yeah, man. And now you're at the elites, which is like prime time, right? I mean, how much different is the competition in the elites compared to other tournaments that you fish in or fished in the past?
It's truly amazing. I always heard, all these guys just always catch them. And it's not just the elites. And when people say these are the best anglers in the world, like, it's some of the best anglers in the world. But, at the end of the day, some of the best anglers in the world don't want to do this or don't have the opportunity to do this. So when people say that, they're right to an extent. But that being said, the competition on the elites, it's stiff. Like, the guys catch them. I mean, they catch them, in the AAA stuff that I fished throughout the years. Yeah, a lot of guys catch them, but a lot of them don't. And sometimes you're part of that, but you get to the elites, everybody catches them.
Business owners and marketing professionals in the Philly area, Bad Rhino takes the overwhelm out of digital marketing. With tailored digital marketing services, from social media management to SEO and PPC advertising, our expert team navigates the complexities of the digital ad space for your business. Let Bad Rhino lead you to success. Visit badrhinoinc.com and let's take your business to new heights. Bad Rhino, we do digital marketing so you don't have to.
I love it. I love it. And so you mentioned that you won your first elite tournament out there. So that's 2021 AFCO Bassmaster Elite on the St. Johns River, correct?
Yep.
And you won that with 10 pounds to spare, and you dropped a 26 bag day, the final day, to secure that win, which I believe is either the highest bag in a day or the second highest bag in that day in that tournament. So tell me a little bit about that whole kind of experience, starting from day one and kind of going throughout the days, and then that last day to bring it back home like that and just secure the win on that. How does that feel? Like, that's got to feel amazing.
Man, it's a very hard thing to explain because it was my first elite. Like, your first elite, you worked your whole life to get here. It's a pretty big accomplishment to get here. All right. So you're excited just to be there, but you still want to do your job. Your job's not to show up. And, practice wasn't stellar, but, I did the last day of practice kind of led me to the overall winning deal, which was flipping pads. And it was actually the perfect storm. You know, I understand Florida that time of year. I've been to Florida every year since 2012, 1 or 2 times every year. And I understand what works and what makes things happen down there that time of year. It was cold and we had a warming trend, and I planned my practice on that warming trend that was leading into the tournament. In the last morning of practice, I started flipping pads, and I only got a few bites. Well, that last afternoon, I started getting bites, and that's what ultimately led me to it, because it was just happening at that point. So day one, we have a 2 hour and 15-minute fog delay, maybe 3 hours. I can't remember. And that's a crazy way to start your elite tournament career. But I went down south and made a long run, only caught a few fish, and I hit a shell bar on my way back and to fill out my limit. And, that's what kept me alive in that tournament, having that shell bar.
So you hit a limit every day, right? You got 5 fish every day in that tournament?
I did. So, that first day I almost come in with, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 fish, but I stopped and hit that shell bar, and I only weighed in 4 or 5 pounds off of that thing. But without those 4 or 5 pounds, I don't make the top 10. So day 2, I wound up, I started on the shell bars. I had a handful that I was fishing, and I caught a decent limit. And, then I went down south and started flipping pads, and I caught, somewhere around 20 pounds, 18, 19. I don't remember what it was now. So come back in, move up. Not really sure what place I was in. After the second day, I was in the top 10. I remember that. So whatever that was. Well, day 3, I still don't really know how good the pad deal is, flipping the pads. Start on the shell bars again. I catch my 13, 14 pounds, which 13, 14 pounds was not a bad bag in that tournament. I'm paying $45,000 in entry fees, securing a $10,000 check, this being my first tournament, is pretty important. So I knew I could do that on those shell bars. Fortunately, I did it quick enough that I could still go out and fish for the bigger fish, the spawning fish in the pads. And that third day, actually, sorry about that.
All good.
That third day, we actually had a big storm come in, and I almost decided not to run down through it. I stopped, fished another shell bar on my way running down, and I looked at the radar, seen it was going to be passing in a few minutes. So fortunately, I ran down there, and as soon as I sit down, the first 7 pads I fish, I catch 7 pretty good ones. Or I think it was around 7 pads, isolated individual pads. It was 5 or 6 out of those 7 that I caught a nice one out of. And then day 4, I just completely forgot about the shell bars.
You just went straight lily pads, yeah?
Yeah, it's top 10. I know I'm not going to catch the size fish that I need to win on the shell bars. And, that's the final day, and that's your last chance to climb up the leaderboard.
So that last day, did you hit them all in a certain span of time, or was it kind of tripped throughout the day?
Sorry about that. Hold on a second.
Yep.
Hey, sound like the mom? My dogs take after my wife. What was your question?
No, yeah. So that final day, were all your fish kind of caught in a certain span of time, or was it spread out throughout the day? Where you were kind of on the edge, oh man, am I going to win this thing? Or are these fish going to bite? Or?
Oh yeah, it happened quick. I got a decent limit fairly quick, and actually, I guess 16 pounds would have won it. So I got to that within a couple hours. And obviously I didn't know that was enough to win. I thought I needed, mid 20s. And, I did wind up catching that, but I didn't know, like, I caught my two biggest ones were the last two I caught, and they were later in the day. I had made a little short move, and to get me to 26, I probably had 21 or 22 before that. So I knew I was going to move up the leaderboard with, just having those low 20s. And when I caught those last two big ones, it was like I knew something special was happening. I knew I had a good chance, but I still never thought that I had it won. And, it was Lake George. I had to run across Lake George, and it got pretty rough. It can get pretty rough. The wind was getting up. So I decided to run back. We had a storm blowing in, and I wanted to give me plenty of time where I could take it easy across George and, not beat my fish to death and kill them. And when I'm running across George, at that time, I ran an iPad at my console for Google Earth. And, since then I found better ways to do that. But, I get text messages on my iPad just as well as my phone, and my screen lights up. Well, we can't communicate with others, so it's not like I could literally be reading text, but it just lights up and it catches my attention, and I just look down at it just because it caught my attention, and the whole screen's full of text. And it was like, congratulations, get back, don't all this stuff. And it's like, holy crap. Well, a lot of people say stuff and think you're going to win when they watch live, but a lot of times, they don't really realize how things actually happen. There's still time at the end. People may actually have more than they say they do. Well, I seen one, Bryan Thrift text me. I was like, if he's texting me, I'm going to win, and my dogs are going to bark. But so, yeah, I'm running across George. It's pouring down rain. And like, I know I probably won after seeing that Thrift text me that, knowing that he couldn't communicate. He was just excited, because he's a huge part of my success, and we just spent so many years in the boat, and it was a pretty special moment.
No, that's awesome. I know Mark Mendez had a similar story too about when he won his first Elite Series, and it was it's pretty cool that because your story and his story kind of relate to each other, where he didn't want anyone to tell him that he won until he actually won. And he kept thinking that everyone was messing with him. Like, hey, people were coming up to say congrats. And he was like, don't do that to me. Yeah. Don't tell me that yet. Let's weigh the fish first.
Yeah. There's situations where somebody thinks somebody's going to win and it's just so close. But whenever I got back and I, got checked in, I looked at Bass Track, I seen what it said. I seen I was so far ahead of everyone else. Then I actually started talking to the guys, actually started looking in their bags. At that point, I knew I was going to win. It was so far ahead. I knew there was, unless somehow I get disqualified for doing something I didn't know I did, I knew I was going to win. It was pretty cool deal.
That's awesome. So let's switch it up here. I know your home lake is Lake Murray, and it's one of those lakes I've never been on, but I've heard a billion stories about Lake Murray. What are you seeing down there that's been working recently? Is there anything like different kind of going on down there? How's the fish quality, that kind of stuff?
Since we fished it for the elites, I haven't been out there, haven't had a chance. I know they're still catching them. But yeah, Murray's is a phenomenal lake. It's one of the best lakes in the Southeast. But yeah, like the herring deal is very strong. And, I didn't do very good in the elite, just it wasn't my time and a lot of things went wrong. But, yeah, like a Zoom Super Fluke, a walking bait, and I got a new bait coming out by Spro. It's a hard swim bait, multi-jointed hard swim bait. And, those three things, when I think it's going to be released at ICAST, Those three baits are going to be, they are really good. They're not going to be, they already are. But yeah, the herringspaw's kind of over now. They're starting to move out farther, just a little bit deeper, get to the cane piles. And, the swim bait is going to be called the sashimi swimmer. And like through product testing last fall, late summer and fall, out here on the cane piles, it was like you could catch them on a walking bait, you catch them on the fluke, but it was amazing how much better the sashimi was. And it's going to be a huge player.
Is it anything like the Chad Chat that they just dropped?
No, it's completely different. The Chad's like a glide. This is more of a straight reel. It's a lot faster bait, a lot smaller than the Chad. It's a heron fisherman. It's a heron fisherman swim bait, but that's what it's designed for. But it's good in a lot of other situations as well. I've thrown this style of bait for years, just going down the bank, like you would a topwater. Especially when the wind's blowing, it really shines a lot, especially spotted bass lakes. It's phenomenal just going down the bank. And I think it's going to be good on smallmouth as well, on, the shallower flats and stuff for smallmouth.
Cool, man. Definitely looking forward to that because I'll be down at ICAST this year. So definitely going to check that out and stop by the booth and see what you guys got cooking over there for sure. That's awesome. So, Bryan, I appreciate you jumping on. I always like to end these podcasts with what's your PB largemouth, what's your PB smallmouth, and then if you want to add in spotted bass there too, because I know a lot of guys fish for them too. Go ahead.
Yeah, so on my birthday, it's a pretty cool story. It was Lake Murray, the year I met my wife, 2019. I was down here staying at her place, practicing for a tournament on Murray, and on my birthday, February 21st, very first cast of the day, caught a 9.3, biggest largemouth I've ever caught. But it was just cool. It was like went to the water was like 10 foot low. I think it was 9 foot low. The first ramp I went to that morning, I actually tried to put my boat in and got my truck and my boat stuck. I couldn't get the trailer deep enough to get the boat off. So I had to get somebody to pull me out. Wound up going to another ramp, put in. My boss at the time calls me. I'm talking to him on the phone. I'm cruising down the lake, and that looks good. So I pull over there. I look down at my 360, or I picked up a crankbait, and I looked down at my 360 and seen some rocks a little deeper. So I put that rod down, picked up another rod with a little bit deeper crankbait. And on the first cast, it loads up. This is a great big one, but I don't think it's a bass. But I couldn't figure out what it was because it wasn't running like a striper. It wasn't spinning like a catfish. And then like it's super low light. It's basically almost still dark. And the water's dirty. When I first caught a glimpse of it, I just see this great big white fish. I was like, I never heard of anybody catching a drum here. So I thought it was a drum. And then I got another glimpse of it. It was not a drum. Told balls I had to call him back. Got the fish in. It was really exciting. It was a cool deal, cool story. But yeah, I don't know. Smallmouth has got to. I know I weighed in a 6 even at St. Lawrence last year. I actually lost one bigger than that, a lot bigger than that same day. And then, what I say a lot, it was not over 7, but it was still a lot bigger than a 6. And I don't know, maybe somewhere close to 5 for spotted bass.
Nice, cool largemouth story for sure.
Yeah, it was fun. Like that was even if I catch a bigger one, it's kind of going to be hard to top that story.
I love it. Awesome, Bryan. You can take the time too here to shout out any social medias that you got. If you got a website too, shout that out, and also feel free to shout out any sponsors too, like Spur that you kind of mentioned.
Yeah, anybody wants to follow me, it's just Bryan New Fishing on Facebook and Instagram. I'm kind of tell it how it is kind of guy. One day it's going to get me in trouble, but like I don't sugarcoat stuff and probably say more than I should from time to time, but I like to think I'm a little entertaining. So if you want to get a laugh or call me an idiot, follow me. And yeah, every now and again I'll put out some good tips, some stuff I try to keep to myself as long as I can. But yeah, I really looking forward to the release of that sashimi from Spro, and got a lot of other great companies I work with. So yeah, give me a follow, and hopefully we can share some fish stories down the road.
Awesome, Bryan. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time again to jump on here. Good luck in the future Elite Series that are coming up too.
Appreciate it, man. I'm gonna get back to rigging for the big bad Sabine.
You get him, buddy. Go get him.
See you, buddy.
You just listened to the Fishing Fanatics podcast with your host, Eric Stewart. Feel free to check out our other podcasts and our other interviews on our channel on Spotify, YouTube, and much more. Check out our Instagram page, TikTok, and Facebook as well.